So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching this video. This video is part of the series Home Away from Home. So we will discuss about celebrations all around the world and how the Muslim communities or communities of different culture, they have adapted their celebration when they move to another country. So today we will tackle, say, the Chinese community, Chinese culture in Malaysia. And I have the pleasure to have here Chi Hao from Malaysia. So welcome.
Hello, hi, thanks, Viviana, for having me here on your show or program.
Yeah, kind of serious program show, anyone like the way you want to call it. So the first question is if you can tell us a little bit about you and and your culture of mix of culture.
Well, sure. Basically, okay, my name is Chi Hao. Surname is family name is Wong, so Wong Chi Hao. But in Malaysia, my friends used to call me Chi Hao. So I'm born in Malaysia, but however, my grandfather was actually from China, and that was the generations when they came down to Malaysia, and then that's how my parents were born, and then followed by me. So I would say we are the third generations. I'm the third generations in Malaysia, and again, Malaysia is a multi-country cultures. We have Chinese, Malays, and Indians. Yes, that's how we can have a mixtures of cultures to live together in Malaysia. Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's really you define it perfectly. And so in your family, is there something that is still, let's say, totally Chinese that you have like passed through generation, or there is something that maybe your grandparents used to do and now is not in your family anymore, but maybe some others like Chinese living in Malaysia, they are doing this?
Well, basically, since my father generations until today, we are very localized in Malaysia now with our lifestyles. Yeah. So if you talk about my grandparents, my grandfather, we used to say that if back to the roots where my grandfather in China, where I believe we still have some relatives in China where during it should be my great uncle, we're still in China, where my father used to say, let's go back to China and look for the relatives. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to find the roots before we really actually know if we really have the relatives there. Yeah, which is the Wong's ancestor. But however, now in Malaysia, our culture, we have get used to our culture in Malaysia. I would say it's living in a harmony way between all the Malay, Chinese, and Indians together. Yes.
Good. I think what you mentioned is interesting because also Italians, like they are like spread all over the world for generation. And so a few years ago, I was contacted by someone that was called Premazzi from South America and was living in South America. And
Ah,
actually, she was doing a research to see if we were like connected at any level. And we discovered that back in the 17th century, there was someone in
yes,
Spain
yes,
that was called like Premazzi. So that was our connection. Come on.
yes.
Yeah.
If my grandfather is still alive, he probably will say, "Let's go back to China and look for our ancestors." But no, not now. We have totally lost the connections in our my grandfather's that area. Yeah, so we have no idea if we have any more China relatives that we know. Yeah.
Okay. And Yan Li told me actually, so the question is, do you speak Chinese or do you understand Chinese? Because Yan Li told me that then when she traveled online for BNI in China, it was difficult for her actually to understand everything that they were saying in
Yeah.
Chinese.
Well, basically, for my family, we know I speak Chinese as well because basically in Malaysia, since kindergarten, our children will study three language, Malay, English, and Chinese. So even though when kindergarten to primary and even though to secondary, we will get connected to three language together. But however, like what Yan Li said, some of them only get involved in English, but they didn't get involved with Chinese education. So they might understand, but they might not speak well and they might not read. But for me, my families, Me and my two younger sisters, since kindergarten, primary, even though until secondary, we are connected to three languages, even to Chinese, Malay, and English. So basically, Malaysia, I would say more than 50% of the Chinese, they know more than three languages at least. Yeah.
Wow. That's really good because you can have much more opportunities. I think like language is really the key to open like doors in business and life.
Yeah.
Good. So so coming to like the celebration of Chinese New Year, how it will be in Malaysia, like not let's say not this year, but how it used to be in Malaysia, being that there is this, let's say, Chinese component in the Malay society, and how it is in your family. If there is any tradition that you still
Oh,
keep.
yeah. So usually, yes, for Chinese New Year, uh, for Chinese in Malaysia, used to be a big celebration. It's like a brand new year, right? So like last year or previous years, we used to celebrate every year. So usually we celebrate for the 15 days, okay, Chinese New Year for the first day until the 15 days. So usually before the Chinese New Year, a week before, we'll do our spring cleaning, which means that we clean the house. Everybody buy new flower pots to do decorations all in red, so that it will have a great atmosphere. Yeah. So usually in the a day before Chinese New Year, the Chinese New Year Eve, where we will have all the brothers and sisters who come back from overseas or wherever stay far. Usually they'll come back and have a reunion dinner. That's where we celebrate. So until the first day of Chinese New Year, where we will celebrate all the sisters, the siblings who come to wish the parents. Yeah, and then for Chinese, we have a tradition in the early in the morning where the elderly will give we call the red packet. It's called in Chinese we call it ang pao. Yeah, ang pao means we have a red packet which inside contains of money. Okay, which means that the money to given is for prosperity for the rest of the year, for the year. Yeah, so for Chinese New Year, we'll celebrate for the 15 days. You know, and then we'll have all the celebrations, and then we'll play with firecrackers. So yeah, that's what
Okay.
we do. Yeah. So
Yeah.
today, this year will be a totally different.
Yeah.
Yes, we like stay at home, celebrate together, just within our family, but not with the relatives here.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I think this is like a common point of all the celebration, let's say, we discuss in this series. Like family, food are two elements that are
Correct.
in all the
Yes.
celebration, and this year are the two elements that we will miss because maybe not all the relatives will able to like come together and join from
Correct. Yeah.
overseas. And
Yeah.
exactly. And what is the year that will start? Because it was the pig, I think, a couple of years ago. And
Right.
do you know what was the year? Yes.
The year of what? The Chinese New Year.
Yes, exactly, the Chinese New Year that we start 2020.
Well, based on the lunar calendar, every year will be different. For this year, the Chinese New Year will fall on the February 12th.
12.
Yeah. So February 12th and will last for 15 days, which means I have even another week to go. So yeah, before the Chinese New Year. Yeah. So
Exactly.
people will busy will getting buying new clothes. Yeah, getting again the spring cleaning to make sure everything was new. Yeah, for the kids, was their most love is new clothes. Yeah, and then during the Chinese New Year, they are so happy to get the red packet, the ang pao, where every time when they meet up with someone, which are usually the elderly or the
Yep.
married couple, will give the red packets to the young kids. Yeah, so they'll be collecting when they visit the relatives, they'll be collecting all the red packets. Yes, that's where the most happiest being and the kids getting the ang pao again.
Super, it always. But there is also like is the year of an animal, because it's like you have like in Chinese New Year there was like 1981
Correct.
is when I
Yes.
was born. It
Yes.
was cock, and then there is pig.
Correct.
I think was 2019.
Correct. And this year was a year of ox.
Okay.
Yeah, so year of ox. So those who are year of ox were born. So we believe that sometimes we have a good luck. Yeah. So that's what we Chinese believe. Yeah. So every year will change. That's why we have a 12 zodiacs. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. I remember I I was in a like Chinese New Year celebration. The first time I lived in New York was 2007. It was like in Chinatown, and it was
Wow.
huge. It was
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Also, you come across, you celebrate in Chinese New Year.
Yeah, and then also in
Wow.
Italy, like in Turin, when I live, there is a, like a Chinese community and like an
Right.
association of young Chinese, and they were also active with the Chinese New Year.
Wow. That's great. I love to, if a chance to go Italy to celebrate how different cultures of Chinese in different countries. Well, instead of Chinese New Year, I think all the countries where they have Chinese, they'll be same celebrating the same ways. Yeah. So I read the first day of Chinese New Year, it falls on the same day, last for the 15 days. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's where the Chinese will be having a big celebration, especially in China. So they will even having a mega celebration. All the business will close at least a week before the actual day of Chinese New Year. Yes.
Mhm. Good. Super. Can you tell us something in Chinese, like a wish for the new year in Chinese to our audience?
Chinese wish. You
Mhm.
mean to wish the Chinese audience?
Yes, exactly. And then the translation in English for all the others.
Okay. In Chinese, okay. 我恭祝大家身体健康，生意兴隆。Yeah. So which means in English, um, having a prosperity health and having in terms of business to be more prosperous. Yeah, that's what we in Chinese where every time where we meet each other, we greet each other, 恭喜发财, which means Happy Chinese New Year. Yeah, so that's what we were blessing to each other. So
Okay.
in case you come across the Chinese, you can just wish them 恭喜发财. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. Actually, now that you are speaking, I was thinking because you are in events,
Yes.
and so there were like events that you were before you were used to do for the Chinese New Year
Yeah.
for some companies, and you will do something online this year or no? Actually.
No, not this year. Yeah, basically, and before all this while in during Chinese New Year, we used to help the shopping malls do two events for decorations, and we used to have some of those different of celebrations of performances, so to attract those families if they go to the shopping mall to buy some groceries, right? During the Chinese New Year, they will have some performance to have a scene. Yeah, but again, yes, since since last year, things changed, and also like this year, the malls are closed, especially this week, and Malaysia is having a lockdown period. So even though I just came back from mall this afternoon and was completely very quiet, and all some of the shops are closed. So yeah, even though events are not allowed to celebrate in the malls, yeah. So things are pretty different.
Mm-mm.
So I can treat this year as a holiday. So
Yes, this year is holiday.
no
Yeah, that's
job,
a good
no
way to.
event.
No, that's
Yeah.
true. Thank you so much. I think it was really to end on a positive. No, I think this is exactly the way why we are doing this because maybe this year will be different, but let's say the spirit of the celebration and the feelings and the emotions are the same. So
Yeah, instead, yes.
we can still celebrate and
To be meet up with friends and meet up with my parents as well. Maybe through Zoom. Yes, it's a different kind of celebrations. Yes, yes.
good. Well, thank you so much to
Thank
have
you, thank
been with
you.
us.
Yes, yeah. Thank you
So,
very much, Rowena, for having me here today. Yes, thank you.
thank you. So, hello again. This is a talk for our new series, Home Away from Home. And I'm really happy to have with me today Yan Li, that is Malaysian, and she will explain to us a little bit something about like the Chinese community in Malaysia and the Chinese New Year, how it is celebrated in Malaysia. And I just want to highlight that we are doing this because with COVID, most of us this year, they cannot celebrate their celebrations and festivities in the traditional way, but the migrants community, they have adjusted for centuries and decades to do something a little bit different or find their way of celebrating in a different country. So maybe there is a lot we can learn. So welcome, Yan Li. I'm really happy and excited to have you here.
Hi, Viviana. Thanks for inviting me for the session. It's really my pleasure.
No, I'm honored. So if you want to start with introduce yourself, what you do, who are you?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Yan Li from Malaysia, Trees Purple. We are in the corporate branding industry, focusing on corporate apparel. We have been in the industry like for 14 to 16 years. So we are more focusing on marketing, helping our clients to design and customize apparels that carry their corporate identity so that it be able to bring out their corporate image and the stability of the company in terms of their brand and how to market it up. Yeah, that's basically what we are specialized in.
Great. I think you just did your 60-second. No, just I recently this year, like so last year during COVID, and we are part of a group that maybe you know I'm part of. That is are the Global Riders, and I think this is one of the gift we received during like the COVID year, be able to connect across cultures and bond like this. So thank you again. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Chinese community in Malaysia? The story of your family, how it is there.
Yes. I am the third generation of the Chinese in Malaysia. Basically, I born in Malaysia as well as my father. But my grandfather and my grandmother, they were from China. Okay, so during the time they arrived in Malaysia even before the Independence Day of Malaysia. Yeah. So, but until my generation, the Chinese culture basically already adapted to what is happening in Malaysia. So we are kind of like different a bit from China in terms of like how we celebrate the Chinese New Year, and then how we practice the Chinese thing in our house, and as well as even the dialect. My grandfather was from Shanghai. Shanghai, we have a dialect called Shanghainese, but I do not know any. So those elderly, when they talk to me, I was like, I cannot understand. not even the terms that I could tell. So I would think this is something not so good, because this is what we're supposed to know, but it's already gone, and we have to even pay to the language center to learn back the dialect. And in China, the province of my grandparents, they have certain food, they have certain dressing. So during the Chinese New Year or some of the festivals, they will cook different kind of dishes, and they have certain name. But to me, they were like, I don't know. So when we participate in certain events and we get in touch with these kind of people, basically they are already at the age of like 80 something. They were from my province, my grandfather province. So that only we get to know that all this kind of Chinese cultural kind of thing.
So what you're saying is actually the tradition are keeping mainly by the old generations and not by the new one. And,
yes.
But do they have a way of celebrating as a community, so they gather together, or is more at the family level, so they do every family?
Family levels, they do it at the family levels, but they also do it in an association. So what they do is that they have an association to keep everybody together. So they also have like they have certain festivals to celebrate, or they come together to have a reunion. Then only that time we will talk about what are the cultural and traditional things. So, but it's not much chances that we can have this kind of opportunity. Yeah.
But is there something like in your family tradition that you have kept from China? Maybe one dish or one thing? Yeah.
Yeah. We over here we kind of like already mixed with our local way, like with the Malay or with the Indian. So even if you notice, like now we are speaking in English, but in Malaysia, our Chinese consists of the terminology of Malay, Indian, Chinese, Cantonese. So in one sentence, we can have mixture of all these kind of wording, but only Malaysian Chinese they can understand.
Wow.
Yeah, very different. And when let's say when we were talking to those China people originated from China, we also find ourselves very difficult to understand what the meaning that they wanted to convey to us, because they are speaking solely 100% Chinese wording. Yeah, I've been to China chapter visit before. I find it so difficult because I pay 105% attention, but I can only manage to capture around 40% of the meaning.
Okay.
It's totally a very big gap, even though we are Chinese.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. But then there will be, or there used to be, any like celebration for the Chinese New Year in Malaysia, also because
Yes.
of the community. And what would, like before COVID, what was happening in Malaysia from this time?
Okay, we were having the same Chinese calendar year with all the Chinese around the world, whether in China, in Hong Kong, Taiwan, or even in Canada or US. We are all having the same Chinese calendar. But the different thing is that the way we celebrating are different. So in Malaysia, as usual, we will have a reunion dinner during the Chinese New Year Eve. So our families from outstation, they will come back to the hometown and we sit together and we must cook. So like my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, they will cook from morning 6 a.m., prepare all the dish until the lunch and the evening. So people like me, where used to be a workaholic, so I do not know how to cook. So they will cook, and I will be the one who wrapping up, like cleaning everything. And during the Chinese New Year Eve, the reunion dinner, everybody has to sit together. All the siblings and our kids, the third generation, everybody will be sitting together and we will have dinner together. And then during the night, so we will spend some time chit chat, playing with the like firecrackers, all this kind of thing. And that will be the next day, the first day of Chinese New Year. So these are quite common in between all the Chinese, but it could be different if compared to my grandfather time. Will be we are quite happening. So we play firecrackers. So we have spend the time together with our neighbor. But in China, it could be different. They still have the reunion dinner together, but they are unlike us that spending this time playing all this. Sometimes even the digital game will come into the picture among the family.
Okay.
So it's like already evolved into a 20th century of kind of game where digital also coming into the picture.
Yeah, and maybe even more this year that everyone would be also connected because maybe they cannot travel.
Yeah, and also Zoom. Last year, we still be able to meet up each other because the COVID-19 started by end of December 2019, where in Malaysia, we still be able to having the opportunity to celebrate the Chinese New Year together. So the lockdown was after our Chinese New Year. And this is the first year that my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, they won't be able to come back for the celebration. Yeah.
That's really interesting. It's also interesting because I'm doing these interviews, and like food is really something that it is important for celebrations in all the different countries and cultures. It's really the time for the family. The food is what you have and share, and like this idea of like cooking all day and dedicate time.
Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. And just one last question to close. This white coffee, what it is? Is it specifically from Malaysia or is common also in other parts?
It's quite common in Malaysia, but I think like China, Hong Kong, there are some export from Malaysia manufacturer over to those countries. But only during the Global Riders Meetup that we found out this is something very new for you in Europe and US.
We didn't know. Yeah,
how was the taste? Do you all like it?
I still haven't, because it's still at my parents. I haven't met them. I have to. I'm so eager to try to see. I'm really curious.
Yeah. It is a mixture. The beans are different. The way they fry it are different compared to what you are having in your country.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really curious.
Yeah. Really. You haven't back to your. I mean, you're still.
Yeah, because we're still like no, it's still like lockdown and kind of, and I cannot travel to see them, and also they prefer because they are older. So yeah, hopefully when like the vaccination campaign and everything, I will see them.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Soon.
So yeah. And is there anything else you think it's important for us to know about the Chinese in Malaysia or Chinese New Year Eve or your family tradition that you want to share?
I would think that it's our responsibility. I mean, now I'm third generation, I'm having fourth generation. It's our responsibility to inherit all the Chinese culture as much as we can, so that my sons, my kids, and even their sons, their kids be able to like carry on all the Chinese culture and tradition as much as we can, because along the time things change and we evolve our practices into whatever during that time. Yeah. So but the time that we spend together is something very valuable, the cooking time. And in a year maybe we only we have that few days that are totally everybody together. If let's say normal days, maybe you are here and you are not be able to make it, just like Christmas where everybody come together. Same thing.
I think what you just mentioned about like the transmission of the culture and is something all the second and the third generation, they find themselves in between, because on one side, and like this is part of my study also, so on one side there is like this push for assimilation, so you don't want to be different from like the majority of the population, you want to be integrated, but at the same time you want also to keep what is your own like identity or your identity. So it's not easy like to have this balance between the two. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No problem. It's my pleasure. I love doing it for you, Viviana.
Thank you so much. And so happy Chinese New Year to all.
Oh, same to you. Same to you. Do you see any celebration of Chinese New Year over your side, Malta?
So there are like Chinese communities and groups that they do something, but this year also like will be less than. Yeah. Do you want to say like the wish that you do in Chinese or in?
Wow. Okay. I do it for you. Hi everybody. So let's get some Chinese. 新年快樂，身體健康，萬事如意，心想事成，健健康康。I don't know if you can understand that. It's about whatever you wish it come true. Stay healthy. Everything smooth and go on well. Super. It carry that meaning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.